I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Conversate with Us Radio presents the Man Listens Show. We are the blackest radio show on the internet. We bring you our opinion on topics that affect the Black community in an effort to enlighten, enrich, and empower every brother and sister that falls under the sound of our voice. We operate on a no-hating frequency, so be prepared for us to keep it 100% real and 100% Black all the time. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Man Listens Show. You can also subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, basically anywhere you can find a podcast. Make sure you share the show and make sure you let everybody know about the blackest radio show on the internet, the Man Listens Show. I'm your host, Mark B. Let's bring the crew in. All right, y'all. So your boy Prime, Deion Sanders, that has social media, black Facebook, black Twitter, and everything else on a chokehold. People been making think pieces and arguing and unfriending folks. I didn't think Deion would have that much of an effect on the Black community, but I guess he did, you know, with his tenure at Jackson State. So for those who don't know, Deion Sanders, also known by us as Prime, was the former head coach of the Jackson State University Tigers. Word came out that he had been offered a position with the University of Colorado to head their football team. And after he coached Jackson State to win the SWAC championship, he did confirm the rumors that he would be leaving to go to Colorado. So this disappointed a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people knew that he, probably wouldn't stay forever, but they had hoped that he would stay a little bit longer. And it just caused a lot of discussion, a lot of disagreements, and a lot of tension on social media. So you know how we do, we're going to talk about it. Start off with our two sports experts. Lab, what you think, man? You think it was cool that he rolled out? You think he should have stayed? What was your thoughts?
As far as being cool, yeah, it's whatever he felt was best for him. So, ideally, yeah, you want somebody to stay, but that's not the world of college athletics. That's it's one of those deals. People are like, he left these kids high and dry. You know what? The coach from Alabama was an offensive coordinator is going to coach somewhere else. He did the same thing. It happens every day. Every coach that leaves, they promise kids certain things, but when it comes down to making the decision that's best for that person and their family, yeah, I mean it does suck. It does suck for the kids, but that's it's part of the business. And I think this is the first. I'm not gonna say the first taste, but I think it's the first true taste in a long time for HBCUs of what big time college athletics is about. And you have to, and then poses a question now, not just Jackson State, is it worth it to you? Is the financial commitment, is it worth the exposure? Is it worth the financial gain? And that's just a simple question. There's no right or wrong answer. You just have to ask that question to yourself internally and go about it from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing that I thought of when people were like, well, he left those kids. And I said, well, coaches do that all the time. That happens all the time. Coaches, an offensive coordinator, a quarterback coach will have a rapport with a kid. They'll get him to come on in and say, hey, we're gonna feature you in our system. Then that's, the next year they out. Thankfully, they have the portal now. So if a kid wants to follow a coach, if he wants to leave a program and trying to find a better fit, they can do that. The only issue that I have with Deion and what he did was that he preached high and mighty about, hey, we need to bring our top talent to HBCUs, which a lot of us agree, right? Like if our top talent went to the HBCUs, it can make a difference. And I think that's why people were so disappointed when he left, because you saw that tide start to turn. He got like the number 1 recruit and then like the number 5 recruit, like 2 receivers to come with him to Jackson State. So he got them to come to Jackson State. He got kids transferring from other schools to Jackson State, and then he bounced. So I understand why people were somewhat miffed about it, because, you played on people's emotions about, hey, listen, just do it for the culture. But then when it was time for you to leave, which I'm not mad about it. I mean, if you look at the salary versus what he was getting in Jackson State versus what he's getting in Colorado, can't be mad at him because he's doing what's right for his family, right? But you kind of playing both sides of the coin. You want them to do it for the culture, but you're doing it for the business and for the money. So see what you got to say.
I mean, let me first start off by saying I did not attend HBCU because I guess my response or whatever it was, on social media, I started getting people were accusing me or saying I was biased. I didn't attend a HBCU. My problem with Dion is that I feel like he finessed that HBCU culture and the Black culture. And you're right, people do leave. Coaches leave every day, all day, and at every level, whether it's, high school, college, professional, in every sport. The thing with him is he was so vocal about being so disappointed in Black athletes for choosing, regular schools or PWIs. And he was so vocal about, our athletes going to PWIs versus HBCUs and why we should choose this and how, it's bigger than the money and how it's bigger than exposure and how we need to bring them to us. He was just way too vocal to stay there for 3 years and then bounce. And so part of me thinks that he didn't even believe half the stuff he was saying. It was just all for attention. Because if you just look at his whole career, everything about him, everything is just about him and for attention. And I think he just loves to be the loudest person in the room and get the most attention because everything he accused and didn't want our athletes to do, he turned around and did. I didn't expect him to stay there, like you said, forever. I didn't think he was going to retire at Jackson State, but at least be there long enough to make a difference because everything he spoke about and everything that he did, everything that he was trying to change, 3 years is not long enough for that to happen. And now we're just right back to square one where we were 2 to 3 years ago. And that's everybody going to the football game just for the halftime show.
Well, I think that's contingent of, first of all, let me say this. I don't think you have to go to an HBCU to have an opinion on this topic or for your opinion to be valid or considered, worthwhile or not. Because the reality is, if you decide to donate your money to an HBCU because you want to support Black students, they would take that money. So if you want to give your opinion, you can give your opinion, especially when it comes down to the culture. I think he did make a difference. He made a clear difference. In terms of at the university, highlighting what the possibility can be if we make those changes at HBCUs. Did he take it all the way to the end? Did he complete the job? I don't know, because I don't know what his personal mission was with the university and with the program, but it did seem very self-serving. It kind of goes right along with what we know about Prime's personality. I don't want to vilify him and say he's a bad guy because I know he's helped a lot of Black youth. Get into athletics. I know people personally that he's helped. So I'm not trying to vilify him, but it is somewhat self-serving. And you have the right to do that. We're all here to make money for our families, to provide generational wealth for our families, and to advance our careers in whatever way we want to see it. His personal mission didn't align with what we wanted in terms of, hey, let's just uplift all HBCUs using Jackson State as a role model. And he's got to live with that, but with people being disappointed in him.
I know you're feeling the show, but picture your ad right here. If you want to advertise with us, hit up the link in our bio and we'll get you on the show.
But Narika, what you think?
My job to look for the truth beneath the version that I'm getting. And so I find it hard to believe that he left the way he did without some other type of motivation. And I don't know, like you said, what his personal plan was, but
$5 million was the motivation.
Well, it was a motivator, but if you are trying to run a program the way you want to and the owner or the university people are not letting you do what you want to do, and like we said, we all know he has a big ego, I could see that being a problem for them continuing forward if his ego was clashing with what they wanted to do and he well, whatever, I'll leave. So I don't know.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, CLF, he pretty much had carte blanche at Jackson State. He was doing what he was doing.
And he did, but there's that. It all comes back around to number 4. Not explicitly to number 4 from Green Bay, But Mississippi, you got to think about that. That's a public university. It's the poorest state in the country. So the funding that they have, I mean, when he got there, you talk about making a difference. They're literally, he came from Trinity, whatever, in Dallas area coaching. They
Trinity
had
Valley.
better,
In high school.
yeah.
No, Trinity Valley Community College.
No,
Oh,
it was
okay.
Trinity Christian, I think, a
Okay.
private school.
Okay.
Okay.
They had better facilities and stuff, seriously, than HBC, some of these HBCUs. So he might have even underestimated what was there when he got there. And so you go into it with great intentions, but then you see that, then we see the ongoing water crisis that they had. I personally know kids that are attending there now, and they were within 4 dorms this semester because of ongoing water issues. And so, I mean, that's just it is what it is. But when you're trying to build something, you can't be the only one. You have to have everybody, and it's not just the administration. It comes down to the funding aspect of it. So him staying at Jackson State, to be honest with you, it wasn't going to make a difference for HBCU football. It's going to make a difference for Jackson State football, because if Morgan State ain't going to put up the same money that Jackson State is, then it really, what does him being at Jackson State help Morgan State and those kids? If North Carolina Central isn't doing the same thing that they're doing at Jackson State, it doesn't really benefit those kids, except for the exposure part, which he's brought. And to him, and again, it's speculation. Another thing, HBCU, you're a coach, you want to win championships. They don't participate in the FCS playoffs. They don't even send teams. They were ranked in the top 5 all season long. But because of the obligation to the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta, they don't participate in the playoffs. And he could win every year. He could win the Celebration Bowl every year at Jackson State. But to him, that's not the ultimate prize as a coach.
But if that was just his main, some mission or motivator from the beginning, I guess I would respect that. He went to the grass isn't greener on the other side, and how our kids don't need to go here because of money. Like, you're basically telling kids not to go to Power 5 schools and pass down potential NIL deals to come and play at a HBCU to 3 years later to bounce and then say because of money and because of this and that. Like, that's my problem with him, is he did exactly what he was telling everybody else to do, because he could have, if he wanted a job, he could have called any of those top HBCUs and said, hey, I want to coach here. And I guarantee you they would have made room for him. Somebody would have lost their job if they were, you know what I'm saying, if you wanted a coach like that.
Man,
but he said he didn't say go to he said come to Jackson State. That's
remember he was having, what was that? It was like a long.
He was talking about Jackson State in the aspect of, because they are HBCU, but I don't remember him advocating for kids going to FAMU. I don't remember him advocating saying go to
he did.
school.
But I think
he got the NIL dollars for the kids at his school.
But I think what he did do though,
it was FAMU only, because I only know that just because Marv and I have some friends and people they have receipts of Dion going back and forth.
You being awful generous by saying friends, but
okay, yeah, you're right.
I'm gonna let you make it. But here's the issue I have with what you said, Lab, and you're not wrong. And I think that all of us have valid points. What's wrong with going to the Celebration Bowl? I mean, I think that's the issue.
Nothing. There's absolutely nothing wrong.
That's the issue that we've always had. And I'll say, when my mom told me about how she grew up, I've said it before on this show. Neither one of my parents were born full citizens. They were born into Jim Crow, and they always talked about how desegregation, while it had its benefits, it also had its negatives. And one of it was that we stopped supporting one another. We always wanted to go to what the white man had, whether they treated us well or not. And so why not turn the Celebration Bowl into something that is what we celebrate? I mean, that could have been that could have been the black, college football championship, which technically it is, right? Which unofficially it is. But say they'd marketed that piece, and then we could have really got behind it. But I saw more black folks, watching the University of Michigan, Ohio State game versus the SWAC game.
Right.
I know they ain't going to either one of them schools. I mean, some of them did. Some of them got
Yeah.
kids playing. I know kids, the person that are playing for those schools. So there's nothing wrong with that. But we can't always get caught up in, okay, listen, I want to go here to the bigger level just because that's where the white folks is at. And I've seen a lot of
I don't
people
think it has anything to do with where the white folks. I think it has something to do with when you're a coach, you coach to win championships. Bottom line. And so you can only win, honestly, you can only win the Celebration Bowl so many times before it gets boring to you.
He's adding that flavor to your function. DD's daiquiri. Good people, good vibe, one drink at a time. Good people, good vibe, one drink at a time. Flavor to your function. DD's daiquiri. Good people, good vibe, one drink at a time. Good people, good vibe, one drink. Wanna kick back, wanna just vibe. Where to kick back? Let me first slide to the drink store. Let me just buy DD drink mixes, all of them fire. Fill me up a case, I'm finna drop bread. Marvelous mango, classic and red. Took them to the party, these folks won't leave me alone. They wanted me to share, they better get their own. DD's adding that flavor to your function. DD's daiquiri. Good vibe, one at a time. Good vibe, one at a time.
how's it when is born?
You can only win the Celebration Bowl so many times before it gets, you want other challenges.
Well, I listen, I heard some people say they hope that he fails. I'm not going to go that far.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not going to go that far, but I'll tell you this. The carte blanche and the antics that he pulled at Jackson State, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that in Colorado. Because when he was talking to them kids, he was talking
I
to
saw
them.
that.
Talking about, hey, and I'm coming in with my luggage with Louis. We got people, some of y'all not gonna be here because they coming and they smart.
Some of y'all, he said none of y'all.
Y'all, they smart, they fast, and they dedicated, and blah 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 blah. And I was just like, oh, you talking real tough. And you know, we can look at it and say, okay, people talk to Black kids a certain way, but when you start talking to non-Black kids that way, they start getting tight. They start getting tight, and next thing you know, you up out of here. And then what made it even so funny though, yeah, $5 million versus 300,000. I'm taking the $5 million every day, y'all. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. $5 million versus.
No, I mean, I would too.
But not only 300,000, he got taxed on it, and I heard he donated half of it to the.
He did.
So we can't vilify him 100%. We could be disappointed, but we can't.
Yeah.
But
I think that's it.
But the piece that I thought was funny though was, I don't know what this man's position was. Some white guy from Colorado. They were asking, "Hey, how did you guys work out the transfer rules?" Because I guess they had some university rules for transferring, and they were trying to fast track that so they can get those kids from Jackson State into Colorado. And then he also said, "How did y'all come up with the money?" And he said, "We ain't got the money yet, but I'm sure."
Yeah,
I'm sure that we'll get it.
Yeah.
He said it's on the way.
Another thing that's lost in the whole conversation is we're going at Deion, but there have been multiple HBCUs who've left Black conferences to go to non-HBCU conferences in the last few years athletically because of the money. Heck, the SWAC poached 2 from the MEAC so they could get more money. I mean, frankly, they did. So it's hard for me to come on here and vilify him when the organizations, or I say organizations, the administration of these schools are doing the same thing as well. So why are we singling out Deion?
Well, see, and that's the thing. I'm not, because I was one of those people when Marv was taking shots 5 minutes ago. I was one of those people that was watching Michigan and Ohio State. That is good football. I'm watching that every year, year after year, because of how they compete against each other. My problem with Deion is I'm not vocally saying do this, do that, and then 3 years later do something different. That's all I was saying about him.
I think the other piece too is people talk about $5 million, right? And we talk about, whatever administrator said, "Oh, we ain't got it yet, but we'll get it." And people say, okay, well, HBCUs need to step up. Deion can't do it by himself. And we act as if there isn't a wealth gap that we all know is present. We act as if the alumni from Jackson State more than likely are all from Mississippi, which is the poorest state in the union, right? And so ain't no way that they're going to be able to compete with whatever funding Colorado was able to come up with to keep Deion or any other PWI or university that's going to be able to, say, okay, we're gonna put together so we can get Deion in here.
Right.
Do they want Deion just because he's some wonderful coach? I don't know. They want Deion because he can recruit.
Yeah.
And he can get those young men to come play.
I was watching the SWAC championship, but during the game, they said Jackson State, and I don't know if this was before Deion got there or not, but they lead the country in that level, FCS level, in attendance by like 18,000 per game. Like they were sitting at like 48,000, and the next closest team was like 30,000. So I mean that's part of the draw. Like you said, people are gonna come out to see Coach Prime, whether they're not gonna go undefeated at Colorado like they did at Jackson State. But you gotta pay to play, and Colorado's paying the money, hoping that they'll reap the benefits on the back end.
Yeah. You like what you see, don't you? I know you do. You too can be fly like me and the rest of the Man Listen crew. Grab this merch, check out our link in our bio. Drip.
Didn't they say a bunch of kids decommitted to Jackson State too?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that happens every time a coach leaves.
Yeah.
Right, but if he takes those kids to Colorado, I don't know.
It's gonna
happen.
It's gonna gut Jackson State.
Yeah,
they're not going to be the same. Now, if I was Jackson State, I would be like, hey, listen, let's find whoever's the next hottest coach that has has the rapport with those kids. I know Deion's probably taking some of his assistant coaches too, right? I know he said I think this guy should take over or whatever. I don't know who he was talking about, but I would get some coach who is former NFL player. Shit, go get Bieniemy. Try to get Bieniemy from the Chiefs.
That's the first thing I thought about.
Hey, try to get Bieniemy. And see, my thing is, we say, okay, this changed Jackson State, not HBCUs. I beg to differ because I think it gives a game plan. I mean, you got Eddie George at Tennessee State, right?
They're not in the HBCU conference.
They're not in the HBCU conference, but still they're HBCU. They played against Jackson State. I was at one of the games. But my point is, they're still HBCUs, and if you can bring in a bombastic personality, it's never going to be somebody who's like Prime.
No.
You're not going to get another player who's like Prime, but you can get a personality, somewhat celebrity, somebody with cachet, and who can motivate young men to say, hey, listen, I believe in that coach, so I'm going to come play at this unit. I'm going to come play at this HBCU versus going to the PWI. The game plan is there, and I give Deion credit for that.
Yeah.
Right. But just switching lanes, man, I'm kind of disappointed in social media because, man, people were going, on and on. I haven't seen so many think pieces and folks arguing since Will Smith smacked Chris Rock.
Yeah.
But I didn't see the same fervor when Brett Favre was still in food stamp money from the state.
Or that money that should have possibly, some of it could have went to Jackson State. I don't know.
Right, right.
Everybody. I didn't see the same fervor when Jackson when the Jackson, Mississippi didn't have clean drinking water.
Yeah.
Like, come on, y'all. Like, we got to do better when it comes to that. I mean, I'm not saying that we can't have an opinion about sports. Hell, we're doing a show about it.
Right.
I'm not saying you can't have an opinion on it, but I'm just saying, listen, man, we got to show concern and want for the better well-being of all the Black people. City of Jackson, it's like 80% something crazy, something like that. All Black, and y'all not worried about them not having good drinking water? Like, come on, y'all.
Right.
You're not showing it, you're not expressing it.
I just think that, and it's not just a Jackson State thing or HBCU thing, it's just when it comes to college athletics as a whole, you kind of have to find your niche, right? So if you're a smaller school, you can't you have to decide, am I going to pay this money? Is it worth it to me? And I think that's something, I honestly think Jackson State might go the opposite route and say, you know what, we're going to look for a homegrown coach and try to keep up as much funding as we can and stuff like that to continue to improve facilities, but somebody that we think will stay longer term.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It'd be interesting to see, what takes place and to see how other HBCUs respond. I got my MBA from Prairie View. So I'm kind of locked in with the alumni from that university. And all HBCUs have their issues.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a scarcity in funds, when you got certain states ripping these universities off from funding that they're supposed to get, attacking them for the amount of, what was it, North Carolina Central? Was
A&T and Central.
It was A&T. They boosted their numbers, right? They boosted their numbers so they had more out-of-state students come in than they actually planned for. So the state took money away from them. When you got them trying to do all these different things to hamstring the success of our HBCUs, I mean, we got to be real strategic and have a game plan. And hopefully we can take, what Prime did was he shows that it's possible. It's possible if we rely on ourselves and we can make a difference. So we can probably get to the point where we want to get, where our top talent is going to HBCUs, and it doesn't have to just be a Dion to get us there. So anyway, what y'all think? Y'all think Prime gonna do good in Colorado or no?
I mean, I think it's going to take him a few years to build. I mean, the boys went 1-11 last year, this season.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. The only good thing is that was their, I guess USC and UCLA are leaving that conference. So
yeah, they go to the Big Ten.
Yeah, big power, traditional powers will be gone, so he can build something there. But also you talked about the HBCUs and what he's done. I forgot, I wonder, does that Nike partnership, they had a whole I don't know what you call it, campaign this year for HBCUs where they were releasing like the FAMU dunks, they had the A&T dunks. I wonder, does that happen without him bringing exposure to it?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't happen, and like I said, he was speaking out about, was it one of his competing competitor teams? I can't remember the university. They didn't have training staff.
Yeah.
He was like, what are we doing here? We can share training staff. So that's why I'm saying some of y'all need to really chill out. I've seen a lot of people that are saying, I hope he loses every game. I hope he fails. Come on, man. At the end of the day, I haven't seen Dion sell out. He ain't no Herschel Walker, right? Shout out to Reverend Raphael Warnock. We just got news that he's projected to win. So shout out to him. Good alpha man down in Georgia. But yeah, Prime may have disappointed you because he didn't stick with the HBCU, but he's still a Black man who's still doing positive stuff to try to help the youth and to advance the cause of Black people when it comes to athletics. So I think people are out of bounds when they're talking about rooting for him to fail. But anyway, I think we talked about it enough. Make sure y'all follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at manlistenshow. Make sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube. Leave a comment. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know what you think. Did Prime let people down? Is he doing the right thing? What can Jackson State do to get better? Let us know. We'll holler at you next time. Peace.
He ain't swag.
Must be the money.